So, as you may be aware, I consider myself a wholesale feminist. I don't mean I'm the Ellen Alda type of performative feminist, but I just mean I have a basic respect for women. Like, if I see a woman, my first instinct isn't to go, ooh, a woman. I wonder how she thinks I am. I just think, oh, it's a woman. And then I move on with my day. And I think that's all feminism, when it's all said and done, is about. Not obsessing over women, not going crazy bananas over women or anything, just treating women like people, When does that happen? And the more I hear about Dan Harmon, and just some of the absolute degenerate shit this guy has got up to, I just wonder, is feminism as we know it actually dead? Is it actually over? Is all the progress that's been made since Susan B. Anthony just gone to rot, or what? How is this going so backwards so fast? Today, we're taking a look at all the absolute degenerate shit that Dan Harmon has got up to, and just why you shouldn't feel bad if you hold him accountable for his actions. Buckle up, because this is going to be kind of a heavy one. So Dan Harmon is the co-creator of Rick and Morty and the creator of the sitcom Community, both of which are terrible shows with horrible jokes and bad writing, and Dan Harmon probably couldn't be funny to save his life, and if he was just some unknown comic going to an open mic night, I bet they'd laugh him off the stage, because that's how cringe his brand of humor is. Somehow, however, a lot of people seem to really buy into his type of laughs, which just consists of, look, breasts, or look, sperm. Isn't this hilarious? And then this complete audience of weird obsessed fans goes, wow, Dan, you really made a statement there. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow, Dan. And, Dan's done some really messed up shit. For instance, there's a sketch from him from 2008 where he pretends it's like a parody of the show Dexter, which is, about a serial killer, except Dan's version is a parody of that, where instead of being a serial killer, he's a serial pervert. And I'm not going to go into details here because it's some depraved and messed up shit, but just suffice to say that it's stomach-churning, god-awful levels of tastelessness that, if any real celebrity did, if Brad Pitt did this, he would get blacklisted from Hollywood. But because Dan Harmon is seen as some kind of alternative genius, some kind of provocative figure of the zeitgeist, he's able to get away with a lot of shit that just normal celebrities like Scarlett Johansson or Leonardo DiCaprio could never get away with in a million years and still retain popularity. Recently, a scandal broke that Dan Harmon used the unhealthy, obscene amounts of power he's gotten from being the king of cartoons to manipulate a female employee who was just trying to do her job. And quite frankly, why would you work for Dan Harmon? There's so many better writing jobs and film jobs you can take out there. There's so many better filmmakers you could work for. So many more creative people that you could try and try and help out. And so many who need help, who need actual help. Dan Harmon doesn't need this giant staff because he's not a talented guy and nothing he's ever done is worth a damn. But somehow, against all odds, he has a lot of employees and a lot of power. And for one reason or another, he just can't seem to use his power responsibly. So, of course, he's going to be a weird, horny, oversexed man-child and try to use his power as the co-creator of Rick and Morty as leverage. It's so gross. It's so disgusting and makes me want to vomit. And to think that at this point anyone still respects this man is disturbing. Because, I thought we had kind of moved past the phase where someone could do something this undeniably gross and like manipulative and like bad. I thought we had moved past the phase where you'd excuse shit like this. The victim has said that she forgives Dan for what he did. That doesn't mean I forgive Dan. I'll never forgive Dan in a million years because I don't have an emotional attachment to any Dan Harmon property because the man is just not funny. I'd say I would have an emotional connection to some of his shows and that I love to hate them. Like, I love to dump on them. But the guy is not worth defending. And just to see so many people come to his aid and go, Dan Harmon, oh, sure he's messed up in the past. Why don't we forgive him? Why? So he can make 10 more seasons of his underwhelming Back to the Future fan fiction? I really don't think it's worth it. I do feel conflict sometimes when some people get canceled over allegations of, sexual assault or sexual incompetence or what have you. Like, for instance, Louis C.K. got into that whole mess, and it's like, what he did was bad, and I still can't watch a Louis C.K. sketch because of just the stigma that's attached to it, and it's like, hey, gross, he doesn't respect women, and he's gross, and, like, all that is just like a paratext that just surrounds every sketch and everything Louis C.K.'s in. But you can't deny that Louis C.K. has a modicum of talent. So if he gets canceled for being a pervert, then, you feel a little, like, conflicted. You're like, well, he's funny, but on the other hand, he's done some shit which actually, like, hurts women and hurts people, and, he should be held accountable for that. So I'm not going to watch any more of his shit or buy any more of his stuff. Like, he's funny, but, he's also a bad person. But with Dan Harmon, it's like, the guy's not funny, and he's a creep, and he's not talented. Like, what do you have to lose by just completely dumping him in the trash and, like, stop supporting this guy? Because he seriously just does not seem to know how to keep his obnoxious horniness under control. Now, as an asexual who doesn't experience sexual attraction to either men or women, I honestly don't understand how someone could be so excruciatingly horny so as to just, like, go full-on Travis Scott sicko mode and just, like, be like, I gotta get my fix of perversion, It's just so weird. It's so freaking weird. Like, can't people just exhibit a basic amount of self-control in the workplace? Can't people just exhibit a little restraint? Is this the 21st century, or is it the freaking 1850s, Like, how much longer is this going to go on? It doesn't just happen with Dan Harmon. In fact, I'd argue it's a lot worse here on the internet. Every single month you see another internet celebrity getting exposed for, like, sexting with underage fans, and it's like, how it's so repetitive every single time that one of these morons, these detestable abominations of the human form, gets exposed as a weird pervert who takes advantage of their giant teenage audience. It's like the exact same texting formula. The fan will reach out and they'll be like, hey, I admire you so much, and then instead of just saying, like, hey, thanks, the weird fucking pervert influencer will be like, oh, how old are you? And then the fan will say, like, very blatantly, like, I'm 15, or I'm 16, and then the freaking pervert will be like, oh, teehee, well, I know that we shouldn't be doing this, but how about send me some nudes? And it's like, you're explicitly engaging in illegal behavior with someone who, in all likelihood, will remember this incident and then tell people later on. How much more stupid can you be? Like, it's like, tee-hee, I know I shouldn't be dealing cocaine, but, well, the urge to get some of that sweet sugar and powder my nose is just too strong. How do these morons think that they can get away with, like, this illegal shit when they're public figures? I guess it's just that the internet provides an illusion of anonymity, of privacy, and especially if one of these morons gets, like, boosted to a ridiculous extent of power and prestige over everyone else for a talent that probably isn't even that great, like being able to play Minecraft or something. You know, if one of these delusional idiots gets boosted up, then the power all goes to their head, and they're like, well, I'm unstoppable, I can do anything. And then every single month it's the exact same thing again and again. Allegations of sexual assault at a party, allegations of sexual assault over a Snapchat. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if some YouTubers just start a little meth hustle on the side and they're like, tee-hee, go over to my meth store. I know it's illegal, but, like, I'm an influencer, baby, you know. And I have a theory about the internet, which is that a lot of people on the internet tend to see certain things and then think alike, which is why, I mean, that's the only explanation I can come up with for, like, why all these pervert threads read exactly the same, with the exact same sequence of events. And then once the victim comes forward, of course, the frickin' fan base is like, oh, you don't get it, so-and-so is just like, you know, they're misunderstood, or it's not as bad as it looks. And it's like, how can it not be as bad as it looks? You know, we have the text transcript right there with this complete degenerate admitting that they know the age of the victim and that they're going to go ahead and engage in, like, explicitly illegal activity anyway, with, like, no regard to the well-being of the poor underage fan who just thought that I'm getting to chat with my favorite, like, I don't know what it is. It's just something about the internet inherently that lends itself to this kind of, like, abuse by the famous, or is this just something that's always been going on? Like with Dan Harmon, you see it, and Dan Harmon is only the inheritor of, like, a long line of rich white guys who are just able to frickin' pounce on these frickin' women because they're big in the entertainment industry. You know, it goes all the way back to the beginning of Hollywood itself. A lot of sexual abuse and assault. But the thing about Dan Harmon is that people, for whatever reason, forgive him like he's part of a marginalized group or something. He's not. He's just an excruciatingly horny white guy who can't control his stamina and just feels the need to swing his big dick energy around. It's like, don't you ever get sick of this kind of guy? And I've spoken with some fans of Dan Harmon who, against all common sense, just back this guy up and defend his shitty behavior and go, well, you know, that was a decade ago and he's changed, you know. But, like, have you ever considered that maybe someone can be not funny a decade ago and be not funny now and also be just, like, horrible to women? How is it this hard to just respect women? Just respect women's privacy, respect their boundaries, and stop being creepy toward them, especially if you're their freaking boss. Like, my God, the shit that Dan Harmon has been able to get away with is staggering. And I've had people call me an incel before, or, you know, a soy boy, or a beta cuck, but I'm not saying to respect women just because I'm simping for them, or just because I want them to like me. I'm just saying respect women because it's like the bare minimum of decency, bottom of being a respectable person. If you don't respect women, then go shove it. Just don't abuse your power as someone's boss, and don't make cringy comedy sketches about sexual assault, because that's not funny, and it'd take, like, a really talented comedian to pull that off, which Dan Harmon is not. I'm not saying you can't make a joke about certain things. You just have to be good at making jokes. And Dan Harmon isn't George Carlin. He's not Bill Hicks. When are we going to give some respect to the actual, like, pioneers of comedy, like Lenny Bruce? Lenny Bruce does not get one iota of the respect he deserves as a stand-up comedian. And meanwhile, like, Tim Heidecker is getting hailed as the father of modern comedy. That's pretty wild. Like, I think it's Lenny Bruce is the father of modern comedy, actually, not Tim Heidecker. So, I think that Dan Harmon has an even more insidious, like, implement up his sleeve than a lot of these Hollywood execs in the past, like, you know, Harvey Weinstein. He was one of the old class. He was one of the, you know, he was probably the last example of a big-time Hollywood producer who just has no morals, has no ethics, and will do anything if it means his sick fucking satisfaction. Dan Harmon has a much more insidious tool, and that is the kind of, like, ironic detachment that a lot of Gen Zers seem to, like, get off to. And I'll never get this. Can't we just take something seriously for once? You know, can't we just treat something like it's actually, like, a serious subject, a serious concern in modern society? Or are we just going to be like, well, that's Dan Harmon. He's the quirky fucking leftist who's just so quirky and crazy. Yeah, he's crazy, but not in, like, the fun way. He's, like, legitimately demented. Not like he's, like, a mad genius whose creative potential is just flowing over. Oh my gosh, Dan Harmon can't be restrained. Is that what it takes to pass for an iconoclast these days? You know who's an iconoclast? Bjork. You know who's not an iconoclast? Dan Harmon. That guy is as normie as it gets. He's the most basic, like, he is the definition of just the worst parts of society today. Looking at a picture of Dan Harmon, I just see all the harmful shit that goes on in today's America. And it's disturbing. And it's like, Dan Harmon is the picture of sexual politics today. He's the picture of just guys who can't take the hint and leave women alone and stop being so excruciatingly horny that he does this messed up freaking shit. It's crazy. Dan Harmon can literally get away with anything. He could probably go on a nationwide bank robbing spree, like John Dillinger, and then, like, his fans would be like, but he's Dan Harmon. We can't hold him accountable for the shit he does. And one excuse that I often see him use is that he's autistic. And I'm offended by this because I'm autistic myself, and you don't see me taking advantage of women for my sexual benefit. Like, that's not an excuse. You're just a shitty person. Also, Dan Harmon's a self-diagnosed autistic, which is just a ridiculous, like, thing. You can't self-diagnose yourself with something. That'd be like self-diagnosing yourself with cerebral palsy, and you're like, well, I can't balance. One time I stubbed my toe and I fell over. One time I slipped on a banana peel. This must mean I have cerebral palsy. Like, no, you don't. I don't think Dan Harmon has autism. Maybe he does. But I don't think a side effect of autism is creeping on women. Like, that's not something that happens when you have autism. Believe me, I know. It's not just because I'm asexual. You can have autism and be a functioning fucking member of society and not be a sexual pervert, you know? You can. It's possible. It can be done. But Dan Harmon just can't do it. And that's not an excuse. But he'd probably use that as defense. If he was in, like, a Waco siege incident, he'd be like, well, Your Honor, I have self-diagnosed autism, actually. And then the jury would be like, this guy has self-diagnosed autism. We find Dan Harmon innocent on the grounds of self-diagnosed autism. and then the whole freaking Rick and Morty fan base would be there, and everyone would be popping brewskis, and they'd be like, wubba lubba dub dub, oh shit, oh, I'm a Rick and Morty fan, ooh, aren't I quirky? And, it just gets really insipid really fast, and I just wonder, like, how much longer people like this are going to be hyped up in the current media circuit, because it's just like, there's so many more people who actually deserve attention than guys like this, like Dan Harmon. One of the worst things that's come out of Dan Harmon's legacy is that, like, one time this moron accused me of pretending to be an intellectual or something because I watch Rick and Morty, which I don't. I wouldn't be caught dead watching that drivel. But one moron's like, just because you watch Rick and Morty doesn't make you an intellectual, you know that, right? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't. That's why I don't watch Rick and Morty. I actually, like, read stuff like William S. Burroughs' Interzone and, the electric Kool-Aid acid test, and that actually makes me an intellectual. And then this moron's like, you don't watch Rick and Morty, so how can you know you hate Rick and Morty? And it's like, I just know I hate Rick and Morty. I just know I hate that show. Worst show of the past decade. And it's made by, like, an actual sexual predator. This is the kind of shit we're letting people get away with these days. It just drives me nuts. It just drives me crazy. A self-admitted, like, pervert who just manipulates women to suit his own benefit. The victim has stated that she forgives him, which is something he absolutely does not deserve. Nobody who does this kind of shit deserves to be forgiven. It's a horrible thing. It's fucking horrible. Can you stop it? She says that his apology is a masterclass in how to make an apology. I just find really funny because he can't even form a coherent sentence. He talks like a 5-year-old. So first off, it's not a masterclass in anything, in coherent, like, writing or in apologies specifically. But he says that he considered women different creatures. And I just find that so weird. Like, what do you think women are, Dan? You think they're centaurs? You think they're mermaids? They're just women. They're just people. Treat them like people, yeah? Just when you see a woman, just go like, hey. But I guess Dan isn't capable of that. I guess Dan just can't do that shit. And how I get lambasted on, like, the most minor of errors, like, I'll say something like, I'll confuse, like, a sexuality with a identity or something, an honest mistake, and I'll even say, like, yeah, I was wrong, sorry about that. But that'll get held over me longer than Dan Harmon, like, an actual, like, admitted, like, manipulator of women and just, like, a complete predator who just preys on women for his own sexual gratification, and who currently is helming one of the biggest cartoons on American broadcast. I just find this wacky. I just find this, like, disturbing. I think something is wrong with it. I think something's wrong with the world. And I'm not saying that, like, cancel culture is the solution. Just don't watch Rick and Morty. It's not a fucking funny show. And the same goes for, like, James Gunn. And James Gunn got canceled. Everyone's like, how dare they canceled James Gunn? And I'm like, he makes superhero movies. He makes a movie about a raccoon in a tree. Like, this isn't the kind of filmmaker who you should be, like, standing for. At the end of the day, I'm not really sure what kind of conclusion to draw from this. Just that fellas like Dan Harmon and fellas like all these perverts on YouTube and Snapchat and whatever, they are an actual serious problem in today's society. They are actually an issue. And fellas like Dan Harmon can get away with a lot of shit that, like, even Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein couldn't get away with. Fellas like Dan Harmon, who possess the dangerous tool of Gen Z irony and being able to pretend that, like, you're some kind of wacky persona, that's something that's entirely new and very dangerous, and I think it's high time we hold all these creeps accountable for what they do, and just don't watch their stuff, I used to like Louis C.K., I really did. I thought he was funny. But then it was revealed that he's a weirdo, and he doesn't respect women's boundaries. And then I was like, okay, I can do without watching his stuff anymore. Talented guy, but he's also really creepy. Like, would you say that, like, you know, like plenty of horrible people have a certain talent, like George W. Bush paints. That doesn't make anything he does good, you know. Tossing that out there. Being talented doesn't excuse you of your crimes. There's plenty of artists in prison who have done plenty of messed up shit. But my point is that Dan Harmon does not deserve the fame he gets. He doesn't deserve the clout he gets. He's just a gross guy. And I think it's really crazy that some people have the audacity to call me a neckbeard or an incel when actual toxic masculinity is a big issue in today's society, and some guys just don't know when to quit. I find this really weird. It's really weird that, like, I don't know what I'm saying. It's a whole can of worms. Anyway, that's today's video. And I know that, like, if you're a Rick and Morty fan, you might find it hard to, like, be like, well, I guess I shouldn't consume content that actively enables a sexual predator. But, like, maybe think of it like this, right? Maybe just, like, you know, watch a good cartoon, like Tom and Jerry or something, you know? Stop watching Rick and Morty. It's not good. Not a good cartoon. And I know, because I'm an animator. Why do you people like Rick and Morty? What's wrong with you? That's another problem in today's society. And I can't get into that today. Anyway, that's it for today. Alright, sayonara, suckers, or whatever.